Welcome to Jesus Changes Everything, a daily podcast dedicated to providing a fresh look at the ancient and glorious truth that Jesus not only reigns, but is busy about the business of bringing all things under subjection, that celebrates the wonder and the glory that he has been given all authority in heaven and on earth. I confess that I am not the most organized person in the world. The record keeping that I keep for the Jesus Changes Everything podcast consists of now 2 different yellow legal pads, one of which in the past I've lost multiple pages from. But I just invested a few minutes trying to figure out how many episodes of the Jesus Changes Everything we have put together. And as you listen today, you are listening to the 479th episode. Tomorrow's last day of the week will be 480, which means in 4 weeks, we will hit number 500. 500 daily podcasts. Now, over the course of that time, I have spent roughly once a week taking time out to let you know about what we're hoping to provide, what our goals are, what we're looking for ministry partners who want to get behind us and support us. Well, as we're approaching this milestone, I want to take the time to really ask you to dig deep. As we're starting Sovereign Grace Fellowship, I think one of the things that makes people reluctant to join a new church plant is a level of uncertainty about, well, how long is it going to be there? I did the Jesus Changes Everything podcast for a year or so, some years ago, and I can understand if someone coming into Jesus Changes Everything 2.0, they might be a little bit nervous that we're not going to stick around for very long. Well, we have. And that means that if you would help and speak to your friends and ask them to sign up, if you would write reviews, if you would be a part of the, for want of a better term, marketing team, you can know that you're not going out and trying to drum up business for some fly-by-night organization that's here today and gone tomorrow. 500 daily podcasts. I have no intentions or plans to stop. I do want to grow, and I need you to help do that. So the first thing I'm asking you to do is to share the podcast. You can do it on your social media. You can do it in the review places all over the internet. You can do it in a face-to-face, imagine that, person-to-person, maskless conversation with somebody. Hey, I've been listening to this podcast, and it's really helped me in this way. I think you should give it a chance. Try it. Check it out. You could do that, and you could radically increase our reach and just be a step in that process. Because you know what? If you do turn someone on to the podcast and they like it and they turn somebody on, then off we go to the races. So that's the first thing I'm asking. Second, as always, I'm asking for your prayers. We're enjoying doing this. It does take up time, and of course now with Sovereign Grace Fellowship being yet another thing on my plate, which I'm happy to have on my plate, but I want you to know that there are time pressures, and so I'm asking you to pray that I would be efficient, that things would go smoothly, and that God would bless our outreach. The third thing I'm asking you to do, this is maybe the hardest, maybe the second hardest. I'm asking again for feedback. I really want to hear from you guys. I want it to be as specific as possible. I don't mind criticism. I don't mind, hey, you need to change this. Hey, the sound is bad here. Or, hey, you keep talking about this ideological thing, and I just think it's nonsense. I want to hear from you. I want back and forth. I want conversation. And again, there's a million ways you can do that. Wherever you're listening to this, I'm sure there's somewhere nearby a comment section, whether it's at YouTube or at rcsproulJR.com or on Facebook or Twitter. There's a comment section. Leave a comment. Love to hear from you. Get the conversation going. Or you can send me an email. Hello, rcjr@gmail.com. Hello, rcjr@gmail.com. Easy peasy. Send that to us. Third, I'd like to be able to look back and say, we continued on, we pressed on, we showed faith, we kept at it, and here we are at our 500th episode, and all of a sudden, God opened the floodgates, and we got more financial support. We got more monthly donors. We got more people coming alongside of us. We got more of this and more of that. We're asking for that. Will you please support this ministry? That's what we're doing. We're trying to help. I was just talking to a friend today. What's your goal? He said. I said, I want to help people. And the challenge is this. The people that I can help, just like I'm sure I have the same issue too, oftentimes the people that I can help the most are the people who are least likely to recognize that I can help them. The least likely to know that they could use the help that I have to offer. I get that. But you're tuning in. And again, I'm hoping you're thinking you're being helped. That doesn't mean that you're less than I am or anything like that. I'm just wanting to encourage people to believe that Jesus changes everything. I'm trying to encourage people to believe the fullness of the gospel. I'm trying to encourage people to believe that Jesus reigns and matters and that he's active and involved. These are the things we're trying to get people to understand. I'm trying to help all of us understand and come to grips with the unexamined presuppositions that guide us and direct us and often misguide us and misdirect us. That's what we're doing. And we're trying to do it in a way that's engaging, that's professional, that's personal, that's conversational. Doesn't that sound like something you can get behind? Again, very easy to do. rcsproulJR.com. Right there on the front page, there's a donate button. When we come to that 500th episode, which is just 4 weeks away, I want to be able to give a report in this segment about the response that we got. I want to be able to say, you know what, we heard from so many of you. You know what, we added 50% more donors. You know what, we've learned to change this and change that. I want to give a report. Don't wait until then. Do it now. And then I'll have a chance to report on the response. So please, let us hear from you. Some way, somehow. Let God hear from you in your prayers. Pray for us. Thank you for tuning in. And again, we'll come back. I'm sure in the interim, we'll have other of these segments. But we'll circle back to these questions when we come to episode 500. It's time once again for another one of our Curating Your Movie Library segments. And the last few that we've done, we've actually looked at series or very short British series. And today we're going to look at an actual movie that is relatively new to Netflix. The movie is called Stowaway. Mm-hmm. And it almost seems like a series in this sense. We have seen multiple movies / series about hardship in space with a crew that's really kind of together, and they have this challenge and that challenge. So this was very much a milieu that we are used to. And I would say, and I don't know if you would agree, that it was the kind of movie that I always say a movie ought to be at least this good. Yes. It wasn't a life-changing movie. No. It wasn't something I'll remember the rest of my life. But it was good. Yeah. It was good. Here's the basic background to this movie. We've got three astronauts who are on a journey to Mars. And it's going to be 2 years, and there's already stuff there for them to try to establish a permanent, I don't know if I'd say settlement, but at least a station there.
Yeah.
And each of the 3 are different kinds of experts, one of whom is an expert on biology, and his job is to see if he can figure out how to get plants to grow when they get to Mars. One of them is a medical doctor, and the other one is, I don't remember, a psychologist or something?
Maybe.
No. The older one was sort of the captain.
Yeah.
And then the younger one was the medical doctor.
Yes.
So they're on their way, and it shows some of the lead up and the takeoff and the rattling and things going smoothly in the conversation with ground control and the shifting to now we're traveling in space instead of the leaving of the atmosphere.
Something went wrong.
Yeah.
Yep, something
Eventually.
went wrong, and they didn't have enough fuel or something.
Well,
and they decided not to abort.
Here's what it was, dear.
Right.
Here's what it was. Nothing went wrong in the sense that they knew anything was wrong, except their prediction for how much fuel it would take to do this or that was off by 2%. And what it would have predicted, why would that be off by 2%? And there's a whole thing about the coffee mug, where, this is actually true, I believe, that when you go on these kinds of trips into space, you're given a very low, but an allotment of things that you can bring, amount of weight you can bring, that's whatever you want to bring. And so the one girl was like a Yale grad, and the other guy was a Harvard grad, and she brought her Yale coffee mug or something like that. And he made a big deal of, this is what you chose your weight on. So we know that weight matters, we know that fuel matters, and then the big reveal, the big problem shows
oxygen.
up. Well, the first big reveal, the big problem is there's blood dripping out of the ceiling.
Right.
And they uncork the spot where the blood's coming from, and
a compartment chamber above.
Right. And out pops a living
body.
person. Yes.
Who's oozing blood.
Yes. And now what? And if you...
And he was a person who actually was like a mechanic on the ship or something.
Well, I wouldn't say he was a mechanic, but he was
an engineer or something.
He was in graduate school. Oh, I should have mentioned this, that to be able to go on the trip, you had to submit what kind of experiments you wanted to do.
Right.
And certain people were chosen. Well, this guy had done that, but wasn't chosen, but got this gig working on the ship, and he was doing mechanical engineering kind of stuff on the ship. I don't know that we ever found out what happened to him.
Well, we didn't find out whether or not he knew that it was taking off.
Right.
He was just stuck there.
Yes, right. And so
How was he punctured, though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't know.
Yeah,
He's wounded, but the question is, did he stow away on purpose, or was he a victim of somebody's evil plot, or was it an accident?
And we never
None
know.
of which is ever solved.
Yeah.
But now, all of a sudden, the issue is, what are we going to do? Because everything is planned so carefully. It fits right in, sweetheart, with one of the most common scenarios I give my ethics students. Mm-hmm. You're on a lifeboat. You got this much food. You got this many people. If you toss somebody overboard, everybody lives. If you don't, everybody dies. What do you do? And we wrestle over those things. Well, that's what's going on in this movie. Mm-hmm. And there are attempts, and even the question of, well, how long do we try to find another solution before we give up? Because if we wait too long, even if we find the solution, it might work out. There's some physical drama where they've got to go out of the main ship and travel
and
climb to try to get oxygen, because that's what they're going to run out of first. And sweetheart, I don't even remember how it ended.
Well, the younger person, went out there, and a solar storm came.
Yes.
And so she ended up being basically consumed by the radiation, and her body just combusted. And
three of them were able to continue on. Three of them left over. Okay.
They don't really let us know. I mean,
there's
they
not
don't
much
show
to
you landing.
Right.
It's kind of a...
Right. But it's
still compelling.
It's engaging.
Still,
yeah. Are they
is.
going to make it? Are they going to make it? And how and watching the different characters and their different perspectives. I really, really loved the debates between the scientist and the captain, especially, where they're hashing out what should be done, and you feel on the captain, who's a lady, the burden of making these choices and leadership. It's not just having technical expertise. It is facing the pressure of just those kinds of decisions. I'm pretty sure that was a Netflix movie.
I think so.
Well, as always, we'd love to hear what you guys think as you're stowing away in this conversation. Let yourself be known. Let us know what you think.
Go to the drive-in.
Yes, absolutely, sweetheart. Let's go to the drive-in.
Let's do it.
All right, baby. I love you.
Love you too, baby.
What is the purpose of creeds? Well, to too many of us, the creeds are a dusty vestige of a happily distant past. They were written centuries ago, born out of abstract battles whose players we can't even name. Isn't it just better to love each other and not get caught up in all those silly questions? Well, we are indeed called to love each other. But let's begin first by asking this question. Are the questions wrestled over by the historic creeds silly? Is the deity of Jesus Christ an insignificant question? Is it really a matter of indifference whether he was a man or not? Is the question of the future resurrection of moment to the Christian faith? Is the question of if Jesus really received the wrath of the Father due to us for our sins not a difference maker in our lives? The reality is not only that there could not be any more important questions, but that in each case there are to this day people and institutions who claim to be Christians, to be our brothers and sisters in Christ, who deny the deity of Christ, who deny his humanity, who deny the future resurrection, who deny the atonement of Christ for us. Friends, the creeds were born out of battles over denials of the faith that are not merely past, but are with us now and will likely be with us to the end of the age. We cannot simply wish heresy away. Putting our heads in the sand doesn't mean it has left us. Creeds are definitions of what it means to be a Christian. They are fences that, albeit imperfectly, seek to separate sheep from goats. Love, too, is a mark of the church. Jesus did say that the world would know we are his by our love for each other in John 13:35. But love, as he defines it, includes protecting sheep, not just from goats, but from wolves. Love among the brethren must necessarily include testing to see who is our brother. Suppose, for instance, just imagine this. Suppose there was a guard outside my house. Suppose Charles Manson shows up and demands entrance. When he's asked for identification, he insists, "Hey man, this is a family affair. I'm family. And it's wrong of you to try to keep family out. Do you not have any sense of family? If you knew this family, you'd know we're all about love. So stop with all this interrogation and let me in." The creeds would be a good guard. Firing the creeds, taking away from them that job, doesn't make Charles Manson a sheep. It makes him well fed upon the souls of the sheep. But there's more. Even within the body, creeds serve us in these ways. First, they remind us that we didn't start the fire. They remind us that we have stepped into a stream that precedes us, that our fathers are at this table. It puts us in our context. Second, they teach us of His glory. They are tools by which we can enter into His character and worship. They are delights, not burdens, radiant windows, as well as effective gates. Maybe our fathers were on to something, and maybe we ought to get into them. You've been listening to the Jesus Changes Everything podcast, a production of Dunamis Fellowship, the teaching outreach of Dr. R.C. Sproul Jr. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to subscribe, which you can do at all the usual outlets, to tell your friends, and to spread the word. To learn more about the work of Dunamis Fellowship, please visit rcsproulJR.com. And join us next time on Jesus Changes Everything.